Is Liverpool are keeping an eye on Raphinha's situation at Leeds United, and if he decides to go for a winger, so if Liverpool decides to go for a winger, he could be the name on the list. The Reds have tried the Brazilian last summer, but they deemed the asking price of 60 million plus too expensive. That's according to Fabrizio Romano, one of the more reliable sources. There's many things that you can talk about there. 60 million plus being too expensive being the first thing. Nowadays, that's just kind of what you've got to do if you want to go ahead and buy players from, or the best players from other people's clubs. So, for example, Jack Grealish, Aston Villa. It was at Aston Villa, mid-table club, but you're still going to have to splash 100 million or whatever. Also, a few other examples that jump to mind is, even back in the day, Gini Wijnaldum for 25 million. After a rather mediocre season at Newcastle, he scored like 11 goals, but he weren't anything special. He weren't tearing up the place. And that still, at the time, was quite a lot of money. So when you go and jump on the younger players, or the best players, like I should say, who are still rather young at other clubs, then you've got to be able to pay the price, 60 million plus, in today's market. I don't think that's too bad for a player of that quality, and I've always said Raphinha will bring to this team what we just do not have. Mane with the pace and directness, Salah also a very similar type of player with pace. We like to play it over the top to him. Whereas Raphinha, if you're playing against a low block, that's somebody who can unlock that defence with just a moment of quality, because he is someone who can dribble past 2, 3, 4 players. Salah can also do the same, but cutting inside on that left foot, it's just a different option. He can also play on the left with that left foot as well. So I would like Raphinha at the club. I'd like Liverpool to jump on it more. Would he be my first choice option? I'm not really too sure, because I'm sure if I delved into it, there could be a few more choices. But he's Premier League proven. We know he can do it in a decent team. And think about how many chances he'd get in the Liverpool team. Not to mention his creative side. He's got a great creative side to his game. He'd be whipping balls into man like friggin' Bobby Firmino, Diogo Jota, Divock Origi, best believe. And just as an option, I don't want no player at the club that isn't willing to fight for their place. Because I already know if Raphinha joins, his place in the squad wouldn't be guaranteed. Rightly so, as we've got great quality within that squad. But when you look at someone like Diogo Jota, who just went, you know what, fuck this. I might not be a Bobby Firmino, might not be a Mane, I might not be a Salah, but I am Diogo, friggin' the best Portuguese player in the world, Jota. Best believe I'm going to make an impact. And when you look at his goals to games, when you look at the performances he puts in for Liverpool, he's a great option to have, and it's probably one of the more underrated signings. And he was 40 million or 45 million. So when you put that in comparison to 60 million with Raphinha, it's really not that bad. Raphinha's arguably, I think undoubtedly, got a higher profile joining Liverpool than what Diogo Jota had. I'm not saying he's better than Diogo Jota. Again, he's proven a lot since he's joined Liverpool. But who's to say Raphinha can't do the same? Who's to say that he won't improve under Jurgen Klopp? Not to mention, he's not going to be asking for extortionate wages. I think it kind of makes sense. 60 plus million for a Premier League club's best player. We're not talking about Timo Pukki or friggin' Cantwell from Norwich. We're talking about Raphinha, someone who probably has the ability to play for a top 4 side. I'd be willing to take the punt when you mention the Premier League proven point, when you mention all that, but I'd love to know what you would say. Would you take Raphinha, or is there other options? Of course, there's always other options, but don't just not get Raphinha because he's a little bit too expensive. That's all I'm going to say. And think about all the players that Liverpool are probably planning to sell in the near future. Maybe they're not, but let's say if they are, we recruited, I think it was 40 to 50 million in the summer. Sometimes you've just got to go into your own pockets, the side of the couches, and be willing to spend that little bit more if you want to get the player that you so wish. Otherwise, you're going to lose them to a Chelsea. Even look at Riyad Mahrez when he joined City. That's what Manchester City have been run now for doing, buying the littler Premier League club's best players and then making the most of it. Even in Spain, when they buy players like Rodri, buying players like Cancelo, just jumping on the opportunity to buy these world-class players. Liverpool don't do the same. We're just very much, let's get a player who's decent and we'll make him good. And Raphinha fits into that similar mould, but I think we'd have more confidence knowing that he's going to be a good player. So I think he'd be alright. He might not be my number one option, but I'd love to know what you've got to say. Even Mullers has just came in and said Chiesa is the best out there, go for the best. And I'd love Chiesa, and I've just mentioned Cancelo. Cancelo came from Juventus. Big name player. Chiesa would be a lot of money for sure. But if he's your number one option, sometimes you've just got to go a little bit over the odds. If you haven't got the money, you haven't got the money. So then let's cross off Chiesa. Let's say Chiesa's 100 million. You can't afford that. Then maybe Rafinha's your next best option. What you want to end up with? Doku? Doku sounds, for sure, but he's a completely different player to Rafinha. And, you know, I think with the amount of different teams you play in the Premier League now, with different tactical setups and stuff like that, it only makes sense to get someone maybe a little bit different. Kind of like what Thiago is. Thiago isn't the same as what Gini Wijnaldum was, or Jordan Henderson is, or Harvey Elliott. He brings a completely different dimension, which is why maybe Klopp doesn't start him in every game, but there is them certain games where if you do start Thiago, he can really turn up. We're going to talk about the